Welcome, my friends, to the Crimson Sith channel. First, I need you to go to the subscribe button. Wipe out the like button. Only then will you be strong enough in the dark side to watch the video. And once more, the Crimson Sith channel will rule the galaxy. And we shall have content.
Today we're going to be taking a look at Skyrim Risk from the Elder Scrolls. And this is one of many games that I've come to collect. I have quite an extensive collection. I used to play some games competitively and earned a lot of store credits, so I have close to 100 games, board games, and this is one of them, so I'm going to be doing a bunch of reviews on them to kind of talk about what they're like to play and just my thoughts on them. Anyway, this is Skyrim Risk. It's based off of the Elder Scrolls game Skyrim, obviously, and very, very fun game. Has kind of the same holds that are in the game as Winterhold, East March, Whiterun, all the classics, Falkreath. Each hold or region, like the Rift, for example, down there, is kind of like what you'd be familiar with in regular Risk as a country, and then there's separate territories in each zone. So, yep. And it makes sense because, you know, each region kind of is like its own country in a way. So it's nice. And the surrounding areas of the map, like Cyrodiil, are labeled even though they're not a part of the game, which I thought was cool. Hammerfell, a lot of attention to detail. Very high quality game. The board has like a laminate over it too, which is super nice. I have a lot of premium Risk games that don't have a nice seal on them on the board, and I have commented to my friends how I'm not a big fan of that. Most notably the Risk premium Risk game of Medieval Europe. I love that game. It might be my favorite version of Risk, but the board falls a little bit short because it's just like a paper top, and it absorbs any kind of oil or anything. Just someone dropped some pretzel salt on it one night, and the next time I opened it up, you could tell that it had like absorbed, it made little like oil circles on the board. But on this game board, you have no risk of that. There's, and that was a pun. The board is very, you can tell by the sheen on it from the light that it's got a coating, and there's no way that like oils would stain the board. So a very high quality board I think the highest quality board of any Risk game that I have. So they did a fantastic job on the board for this game. 11 out of 10, put it that way. Coming over here are examples of some of the figures. Yes, there are dragons in this game. I have the Game of Thrones Risk, and I actually think that the most disappointing thing in the Game of Thrones one is there's no dragons. I understand it would be lopsided, it's not quite fair, but it seems like they could have had a premium game mode or something where dragons were included, because this one does. So, and maybe it works better for Skyrim, but Skyrim has 4 dragons that are included, 4 dragon miniatures. It's hard to tell in there in the box, but I have one of them on the board there. They start on 4 neutral territories if you're playing the suggested premium version, and yeah, your hero would go and fight them. So the next aspect I'm going to talk about is the hero. Each faction, and there's 5, has a tall character like the one you see next to the dragon, and it's your hero. So your hero can fight dragons and other heroes, and that's how you pick up additional things in the game, because there's significant rewards for killing a dragon. And armies can't kill a dragon, they must be killed by heroes specifically. And but hey, you can pick up a territory by clearing out a dragon that is, neutral, so that's kind of cool. The armies are those 2 little units next to the purple guy. Each faction has their own kind of different look to the slightly larger person and the hero, but the smaller unit is the same for everyone. It's just a sword shoved in the mud. So that's the sword shoved in the stone or the mud, whatever, is the representative of a 1 army, and then the slightly larger guy is a 3. So in this game it's 1s and 3s and then a hero, and that's the only kind of piece you're going to have. Each faction just has 1 hero, but there's obviously a bunch of different kinds of the other units. The 3 looks different for every faction, and the hero looks different for every faction, which I really like. Makes it unique. The purple that I have out are the Thalmor. There's also the yellow faction, which are the kind of wildling guys, the Forsworn. The green are the Orcs, the blue are the Nords, and the reds are the Imperials. And then, I guess if you want to count the dragons as a faction, they're black. But here's a example of a player board. Each faction has a board, and it's how you track a whole bunch of things for your character. So you can see the Imperial one is out there. Starting off, you can track your territories, you can track your victory points, which I'll come back to. You can track your the portals you control, and the I want to say forts. They're called forts in this game. The forts you control. So I'm going to scooch a little bit. So on the board, for example, Falkreath here. Falkreath. The little Elder Scrolls symbol is a portal. And now portal spaces can attack any other portal space. So that is what makes this very intriguing. Is you have to defend against all the other portals, which is interesting. And then the fort right there is that little symbol on the Falkreath territory, and that doesn't really do anything except it counts as another territory. So a fort territory counts as 2 territories basically. And portals don't count as anything special, but they kind of do, because there are objectives that do sometimes mention forts or portals. So then you can see the reward for having all of Falkreath is 4. But speaking of objectives, you see an example of some objectives. Control 2 forts and a portal. And then another one, conquer 6 territories in a single turn. And there's a reward there at the bottom. That number is the number of victory points you would get for doing that thing. And then you would track it on your game board. Game sheet, sorry. And then over here you can also track your hero's health and your hero's magicka, because you can acquire magicka, and it's not like a level up system, it's just like a pool that ebbs and flows kind of. You can use magicka to cast spells or to buy spells. So when you're buying things on your turn, you're not just buying armies. You can spend magicka to buy spells. And you can also use territory cards. You can turn them in like normal in Risk. Let's see if I can get past the glare. So you can get, 4 copper. For 3 copper you can get 4 armies. For 3 ebony bars you can get 5 armies. For 3 dragon bones, 6 armies, or 1 of each for 7 armies. Or 2 of any kind cards for 1 either weapon or armor for your hero. You can see it on here, spells, weapons, and armor. I'll come back to the shouts. So the cool thing is I have slots that are occupied at the moment. I put some stuff on. I have an orcish sword and a Daedric armor on this guy. And I have a spell that I've purchased as well. I can add 1 to my highest defense roll for the duration of the invasion. The spells are one-off, and you have to spend the magicka on the card cost on the bottom to cast the spell. So you have to spend a buy and spend a cast. And then when you cast it, it burns the card. Weapons and armor stick with you though, and they're just persistent effects. And then you can see the Fus Roda is the shout I put on this person. You get those by killing dragons. Every dragon you kill, you draw from the shout deck, and you get a random shout. And then you also get a extra objective card and another territory card. And you have conquered a territory by doing so, so you technically, at the end of your turn, if you hadn't already, secured a territory card, you're going to get one. Because remember, in Risk, you have to conquer at least 1 territory each turn to ensure that you get a territory card at the end of your turn. Dragon health is tracked here. For some reason I put it on 1 instead of 10. But yes. So you keep that down there, so if someone's fighting a dragon, you can track the damage. Dragons fighting heroes. You roll, when you're attacking a dragon, you roll 3 attack dice. Dragon rolls 2, and you use normal, Risk, back and forth on it, but both people have 10 hit points, and it doesn't matter how much hit points you have left, you always roll 3 versus 2 dice and compare. So it's kind of the same, but different. It's a neat twist. So I actually really like the combat of dragons and heroes, and then it's the same way for heroes fighting other heroes. You can engage another hero if you move into their spot and try to mess them up, because if a hero is defeated, the person can't win the game until they revive their hero. And to revive the hero, you have to spend 10 magicka. So that means you have to build up to 10 magicka and then spend it all and go to 0. It's a big cost. So you could stop someone from winning the game if they have 10 victory points, because they have to then work on reviving their hero in order to actually win. And there's a lot of rules, but if you do defeat another hero as a hero, because armies can't fight them, it has to be another hero, then you get their weapons and armor, which is huge. And in the game that I played, it was a 5-person game. We did have an instance where there was a hero that killed another hero. They got all their stuff. It was a pretty huge upset. And it sparked a brutal rivalry. Like they were already kind of warring, but after that it was pretty brutal. Heroes can serve as generals as well. If they are in a territory with armies that are attacking, they get to add +1 to their army's rolls with attacking or defending whenever they're present in that territory. So that's pretty huge. And shouts and spells can be cast by them in things in the territory or at an adjacent territory. So that's interesting. Trying to think all the things. There's an interesting dynamic with the heroes. They're very, very fun. I really like that addition. They act like a general, but they also are not. They're a hero, an adventurer. I like how each faction has their own specific looking hero too. It feels very like a custom experience. It's fun. And it's neat to see the different warring factions of Skyrim. Oh yeah, shouts. Shouts, once they're used, they can be used once per turn. They are incredibly powerful and they can never be lost. So killing dragons are important, but killing dragons are dangerous. If you fight a dragon, you could lose and lose your character. There are ways to heal your character with spells and other things with magicka, but it's tricky. So, because it, requires magicka. Weapons would help you fight opposing things, and the armor is supposed to help you kind of defend yourself, obviously. But it's tricky to spend for those things because you also want armies. You need to spend territory cards to get armies, so you can actually win the game and conquer regions. And here's an example of some territory cards. I got 5 out there. They're pretty cool cards. I already showed you objectives. Yeah, it's a great game. I have the Game of Thrones Risk, as I mentioned, and this will be controversial, but I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan, and but actually I think this is a better game. I really was somewhat disappointed in some aspects to the Game of Thrones thing. I like what they have. It's not bad, but for some reason this just feels so much easier and more fun, invigorating, fresh to play, because it's less dogmatic and rooted in armies. Which, I mean, that's fair. Like, if you really want an army battle, that's fine. But this has army battle, but it also has the hero adventure aspect and has magic, and it's a little more lighthearted, and the board is more manageable. But you still, instead of having ports, it has portals. And you have forts instead of castles and stuff. So, similar, but more, I don't know, it just has a different feel to it, like a lighter feel to it, but it's still a brutal, bitter war, civil war going on, just of a different kind. So and as I mentioned, the board is fantastically done. Game of Thrones, I think, also has a laminate board, but I can't can't remember. And this one's got a nice thicker laminate on it, I feel like, though. So it's not just laminated, it's got a very durable board to it. And I think, I don't know, I would have just thought it was very well done. And I like the details on the side. Like, the details on the board don't end just where the game board ends. You can see High Rock and, you know, underneath the army total over there. And then you have all the little details on the map itself, like the rivers are mentioned, and the lake sometimes. It's fantastic. So they just did a great job, I felt like, with this game. And there's different modes of play as well. And you can play with and without portals if you feel it's too complicated. I played without it the first game because I thought it'd be too much. But I'm excited to play with it next time because I think it actually would enhance the game just a good way that it would. I think it would benefit from having the portals, put it that way. But yeah, the dragons feel good. I do have some complaints. One complaint being the objectives feel very easy to accomplish sometimes. And another one is when you play with 5 players, the last person is supposed to start with 1 less territory. But they're supposed to start with 2 more magicka. It's not fair. It really is not fair to the last player. So I recommend doing a slight addendum to the rules and instead have the first player start with 1 less territory and plus 2 magicka. Because that way the first player, since they're going first, has an opportunity to get an additional territory to make up for it. Otherwise, the last player starts with 1 less, and then everyone takes their turn, probably takes from him, and then that last player never has a chance to really recover, which is what happened in our game. It was like the 5th player was just not even in the game. The 5th player was the only one to never score a single victory point. So with that slight rule alteration, it's completely fair. So they screwed up with that one rule, but other than that, fantastic game. There's 3 game modes. One is like regular Risk, ignore all the extra pieces. The second game mode is playing as I just described, which is the recommended premium version. And then the third one is without the objective cards, you just do Civil War, which is world domination, or Skyrim domination. And I think that one and the last, or the one before that I mentioned, are probably the 2 best versions. That way you get to see some of the premium elements of play, but you really have a more fleshed out and interesting game. So I have yet to play the last game mode. I really would like to, but would probably play longer since you're not using objectives, and the objectives are arguably fairly easy, I think, to accomplish. So getting to 10 is not that difficult. So I don't know. Oh, another gripe I do have, the trackers down here are just sitting on there. So if you have a good party going, decent amount of people, it's so easy to get those knocked around. I like that they have them because it makes it really easy to track, so you don't have to count your territories every turn and see how many forts and portals you have if you're keeping track of it actively. But it's so easy for them to just slide around because they're just there. So you bump your thing and they move, and it's like, you know, it's just easy. So if someone hits the table, they move. So it's not the best. I wish they were in like a track system or something, like in Rogue Seas. They're actually stuck in something, or an outer rim, like the trackers, a peg and a thing. Like, they could have done it better. For box space, it looks like they wouldn't have. They needed these to stay paper thin, but they could have. They had some room to shrink the insert, and then they would have had room to have thicker boards. So yeah, maybe they spent the extra money on the board, I don't know, but yeah, an additional gripe. But other than that, fantastic. It's a lot of fun. It feels like you're playing an adventure game and a world domination game at the same time. So if you like the best of both worlds and you want to make a lot of people happy in a board game night, I highly recommend taking a look at Skyrim Risk. Definitely worth it. Thanks for taking a look at Skyrim Risk with me on the Crimson Sith channel. If you like board games or miniature games or some DayZ or Hold Fast, PC action, then consider giving me a like, comment, and subscribe to see more. And let me know if you have this game and what you think about it and my rule addendums. And I'm really interested too if you guys have an interesting rule addendum for the game. Please leave that in the comments. I read them all, and I love playing board game nights and kind of working out what's the most fun to play, or in the most fun way. So thanks for watching.